Hey, hello everyone. My name is William Hemsworth. Thank you for joining me today for this program. I'm excited for our guest today. She's been on the show a couple times before, good friend, Dr. Ann DeSantis. She's a Catholic author and speaker from the greater Philadelphia area. She is the executive director for the St. Raymond and Nonnas Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. And the foundation makes pastoral outreach to families in crisis. Her latest books are Living Affably, available on Amazon and Kindle, and The Virtue of Affability or Friendliness and Its Relevance in Modern Evangelization, available through En Route Media. And her newest one, Intentional Presence. It's a gentle, faith-filled, reflective book published just this year. And she also has a great podcast on YouTube that you should check out called Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis. So, Dr. DeSantis, how are you doing today?
I am great, Bill. It's so good to be here with you on this morning. Thank you for hosting me on your podcast.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. And thank you so much for taking the time this morning. Wow, you've had a busy 2026, coming out with some great books here. So is there anything else going on besides the books, or is that kind of your focus for now?
Well, as you mentioned during my bio, I always have a lot going on because I am the executive director for the St. Raymond and Nonnas Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith, where we make free pastoral outreach to individuals and families in crisis, not just nationally, but really even beyond this country. And I am employed by, and the foundation was founded by a religious order, and that's the Mercedarian Religious Order. So I've been doing that for quite a while. I've been with them for almost 9 years. And I'm so grateful for that position because it is my main job, what I do for a living, as they say. But on top of that, as you said, I'm an author. I'm also a speaker. I got my doctorate with Pontifex University in October of 2024. And the topic of the dissertation was the virtue of affability and its relevance in modern evangelization. And from that study, I came out with those 2 books that you also mentioned during the bio. One of them is Living Affability. I'm just going to show it right here.
Sure.
So that's the 40-day journey to learning about this virtue and how we can exercise it in our lives. And then the other brand new one, I don't know with the light if you can see it there, Intentional Presence. This one is written in the first person, first time I've ever done that too. And that book is kind of a guide to learning about the virtue of affability and how we can live it out in daily life.
Now, for those that may not have heard about this virtue, can you give us an overview of what this virtue is and why it's important in our evangelization efforts?
Thank you so much for asking. I guess it was some years ago, maybe 5 years ago or so, during the global pandemic, that I got to really thinking about people who are isolated. There were so many people who were isolated during that time. There were sick people that nursing homes, people that couldn't get out. And I was thinking about the marginalized. I was thinking about people who don't have the support that they deserve. And it really made me think about what can we do as a people of faith to make greater outreach to those who are on the margins of our lives. And I think we all know people who are, whether they're in our immediate families, people in our neighborhoods, people at church, at school, at work. So many places that we go, there are people who they're just not feeling right. And as hard as they try, they're not able to get over that hurdle. And so as Catholics and as people of faith, I wanted to really research and find out what can we do other than pray, right? We can always pray. That's something that we should do and we can do daily. But what else can we do? And so I started to reflect on the virtues, and I discovered through St. Thomas Aquinas in the Summa Theologica, there was a small section there where he talks about the justice that we give other people in being open and affable and friendly, and just basically having a listening ear, learning how to show people that we're there for them in very simple ways. And not only that, I learned about it through the saints. So many of our saints have lived affability. One of those saints was just newly ordained, I believe on September 7th, St. Pier Giorgio Frassati. He's one. And of course, St. Carlo Acutis, they were canonized on the same day.
Right.
Of course, we all think of Saint Teresa of Calcutta, Mother Teresa, someone who exercised affability, but the list goes on and on and on. And I do believe that not only Pope Francis, but also Pope Leo, even recently in his Lenten reflection, has talked about how we can use our words in the right way to make outreach to people, right? We don't want to gossip. We don't want to be two-faced toward people. We want to be genuine. We want to exercise active listening. So these were the things that really made me decide that I wanted to do something with this. And last year in 2025, I was very blessed to do many speaking engagements on living affability. I visited several states. I was in my own state of Pennsylvania. I live in Philadelphia area. I was in Kansas. I was in Louisiana. I was in Oregon. I was in Tennessee. And I was in New York. I was in other places, and Boston, I should say, too. And I met so many wonderful people, and they were all extremely interested in how we can use this virtue to evangelize in our world. Very peacefully, I should say, too.
Yeah, sure. And it seemed like every time I saw you on social media, there was like a new speaking engagement you were on, which was I was very excited to see. So why do you think so many of us have never heard of this virtue before?
You know, I think that it's looked at as more one of those micro virtues. It is really under the umbrella of justice. It's a moral justice. And so it's not one of those main ones that we see, but it is something that we can offer to people. It's the virtue of really being open and friendly. It is a virtue to be friendly to others and to smile. Mother Teresa talked so often about that when you smile at someone, it's an open door. You're saying,
Yeah.
I accept you. I'm here. I'm listening. I think in the Catholic Church, that's something that we need to work on. Not only in the Catholic Church, it's something really we all need to work on. It's not just a
Yeah.
Catholic thing. But we talk so much about how can we bring people back. I know in my own archdiocese, we have something called trustandhope.org. It's a new initiative that the Catholic Church has to really take a look at why we have lost so many people and how we can be more invitational, right? And I think that this virtue is something that we can educate people on, and that we can do it ourselves in very simple ways. You don't need to be super educated. I mean, I do have a doctorate now, but you don't need to have a master's degree or a doctorate to do this. I mean, this is something very simple that we can exercise in our lives daily.
Yeah, like you said, something simple like going up to somebody you've never seen in your parish and saying, "Hi, good morning, welcome." Just something very simple like that. Now your doctorate dissertation, of course, published through NROUT. Then you have the 40-day journey. Can you walk us through that one briefly on why you wrote that? And I think
Well,
it's
the reason,
appropriate because of
thank
Lent
you.
right now. So
Absolutely. Yes. 40 days for Lent. That's right. And I've really been trying to put it out there to people that they can use this book to walk through Lent, because it is 40 days. You can use it at any time, but I mean, I
of
think the
course.
Lenten season is a great time to do it. And the reason I did that was when I wrote the dissertation, it was 380 pages. And let's face it, Bill, I mean, a lot of people don't want to read someone's dissertation. They don't, they just don't. And I'm okay with that. I do hope the message gets out there. And that was why I wrote Living Affability, because it's a simpler read. It is something that the average person can just read a couple pages a day and learn about what it is. And so every day in the 40-day journey, I have a quote from either a saint, the Bible, the catechism, or some other Catholic quote. There is also a reflection on that quote. And then I have a call to action and a prayer. And a lot of prayer journals do this, don't they? A lot of those books similar to this. And I don't think there's anything wrong with taking that format and just kind of using that format because it works, right? And so that's what I've done. I just took a quote every day and something to think about, and something that we can exercise in our day that day to learn how to become more affable and more open.
Yeah, well, do you mind telling us a couple of those things that maybe the everyday person in our pew could do to live that virtue a little more deeply?
Yeah, I think something that they could do the easiest thing that you can do to get involved in becoming more open and affable is first we need to recognize that all of us have a different personality. Some of us are very outgoing, some are extroverted, and a lot of us are right in the middle. I think I am really. I've always thought of myself as pretty outgoing, but I'm not really as outgoing as one can be. And I think all of us are somewhere in that spectrum, right? And we know people who are on one side or on the other, but a lot of us fall in between. But you know what? Here's what I want to teach people. It doesn't matter where you fall on that spectrum, because when it comes to being affable and open and invitational, it really is a one-to-one thing that you're doing. And we have a program right now, and it was through the Eucharistic Congress at my own parish. I go to St. Mary's Catholic Church in Schwingsville, PA. We are doing the Walk with One program, which you might be familiar with, Bill. That was through the Eucharistic Congress a couple of years ago when it was in Indiana. And it's that whole idea of thinking about who is that one person in my life that could use my presence, right? And that's the other book I wrote, right? Intentional presence, being intentionally present to someone. Is it someone who just lost a spouse or a child or a loved one or someone else in their lives? Is it someone who just lost a job? Is it someone who has a health crisis or is a caretaker? There's all these people that we can think of that for one reason or another, they might not have the love and support that they deserve. Not everybody has support. It's true. And even people of faith. There's people that we know who are people of deep faith that do have tons of support. Maybe they have a lot of friends at church or at work or home. Maybe they're very deeply connected to their extended family. But there's quite a few people, I believe, who are walking on this earth without much help. And that's part of what we need to do as Catholics, right? We need to recognize that. We need to look at these people as these are the people that God wishes us to reach out to. I mean, in Matthew 25, the sheep are separated from the goats, and the criteria that the Lord uses to show us is, did you give me food? Did you give me drink? Did you visit me when I was in prison? I mean, some of them are the corporal works of mercy, and some of them are the spiritual. We can do both, right? We have to do both as Catholics. We should. And we should. And I talk about that in the book. I talk about how we do need to exercise both the corporal and the spiritual. But to go back to answer your question, I was digressing a little bit, is I believe the way that we can do that is through active listening. I think that if we take a step back, I think we're in a very fast-paced world where we get tons of texts and Facebook messengers and emails, and we don't get a lot of one-to-one time just to talk to somebody, do we? I mean, even like what we are doing on this podcast, right? We're having a conversation, but we're also talking to people who are watching, right? And we can do the same thing with people in person or picking up the phone, right? That's something we don't do anymore, isn't it? We don't pick up the phone like we used to. We're all afraid we're going to bother someone. But you know what? Some people like a phone call. They like to be called. They like to have, even if it's a 5-minute conversation, to say, how are you doing? What's new with you? Do you want to get together sometime? These are real simple things that we can all do. And I want to kind of bring those things back, right? I want to try to bring some of those real simple things back so that we can all make a difference for others in our walk with one, right?
Right. Now, you talked about active listening a moment ago, and I think that's something very important that's lost in our society. I think a lot of times we are listening to respond instead of listening to understand. I was wondering if you can maybe touch on that maybe a little more.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. That is so true. And when we talk to people, a lot of times in our minds, and I'm guilty of it too, we're already thinking about, what am I going to ask this person? I mean, when you're podcasting, you kind of have to, right? You do have to do that. But when we're having a conversation, a simple conversation with someone, maybe what I'm trying to say is we shouldn't be as much on a mission. We're on a mission. Sometimes we're on a mission to ask questions, to finish this conversation, to get to my next task, your next task. And there's nothing wrong. We have a list of to-dos, don't we, every day? I mean,
Sure.
I'm going to have to get in my car and go do errands later today. I'm going to have to make dinner. I'm going to have to do other things in my house, do some house cleaning this weekend, right? So we have a list of to-dos, but in those to-dos, maybe we should make it a point to reach out to people. Maybe we should make it a point to reach out to a friend that we haven't heard from in a while, right? Keep those connections. I think when we attend funerals, you see that a lot of times. You find out a lot more about someone than you knew when you
Mhm.
attend a funeral. And that dash on our gravesite, the dash, you've heard of that poem, The Dash, and I don't know it by heart. I used to refer to that when I would do my talks, but the dash between when we were born and when we died, that's when we do that living, right? And that's where
Yeah.
the rubber meets the road every day, isn't it? For those who are watching, look it up. The poem called The Dash. It's simply called The Dash. And it isn't a Catholic or a Christian poem, I don't think, but it really is something that spoke to my heart about the importance of the way that we live our lives every day. And like I said, when we attend a funeral, we realize that there was a lot more to a person than we even knew. And when we become more affable, when we become more open, better active listeners, when we listen to what Christ is asking us to do, right? He's
Yeah.
asking us to do this. I think that we will partake a lot more in that dash of somebody else's life too, right? We can say, I knew that person. It wasn't just like my great uncle that I saw only, every once in a blue moon or something. I had something to do with their life. And I helped to fulfill Christ's mission by becoming more present for someone, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads me to my next question, your newest book, Intentional Presence. Now, you mentioned you wrote it from the first person, which in the writing world is, kind of taboo. Um,
Yeah.
but what brought this book along and what made you decide to write it in first person?
I wrote it in the first person. Well, first of all, it was the very first time I've done that. I published several books. There was Love and Care for the Marginalized in
Right.
2021. There was Hearts Burning Within Us with Bill Snyder and a couple others, which was a book having to do with young people really learning their faith, people who are headed to college. That was another book that I did in collaboration. And then, of course, there was the dissertation, The Virtue of Affability, Living Affability, and now Intentional Presence. So the fifth book was the one that I said, you know what? It's a short book. It's very thin. There it is. And I just wanted to write something that spoke from the heart, spoke a little bit, not a lot, but of some of my own experiences. So I don't make the book all about me or about my life or anything like to that level, but it does give little snippets of my own opinion about things in my own life that have taught me why it's important to be intentionally present to other people. That's why I wrote it. So I'm hoping that people, when they think of purchasing the book, now this one is 12, that's the Living Affability, and this is 7. So you get both of them and they're 20. So it's an even 20. And they're available on Amazon. And they can also just go to my website. It's simply andesantis.com. And there's an Anne's Books page. And then you can see all the other books there. But if you get the two of them, it's an even 20, kind of a good read. You can use them together, I guess is what I'm saying.
Good deal. So check it out, andesandis.com, everyone. Great website, great resources there as well. Now, for someone watching, maybe they're thinking, isn't affability just being nice? Now, can you maybe talk about that distinction? And I say this, Anne, because when I was investigating Catholicism, trying to decide if it was true or not, I came across people that were sharing the faith in a nice way, that were there to listen, and then those that were kind of demeaning, like, you dumb prots, you don't know this, blah, blah, blah. So maybe you can touch on the difference a little bit, if you don't mind.
Oh, I would love to, because honestly, that was a big, huge part of why I decided to do this project. I was noticing online a lot of words that were spoken, saying that, and by very intelligent people, believe me, people that I absolutely admire their writings
Yeah.
and their podcasts and everything. But some of the language that I was hearing was, and I don't think they meant it maybe in the way that it sounded, but they were basically saying that being nice doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yes.
really matter. Okay. And every time I heard it, it just bothered me. I thought, you know what? This is not a good message for the Catholic Church. It isn't. And believe me, I get the fact that we need to follow the teachings of the church. Really, I mean, I'm married to someone who's very much on that side. I mean, we're both on the same team, okay? But my husband is very much like, he believes in preaching the truth, and I do too. But this is part of that truth. This is part of the truth, right? If we look at the Bible, if we look at the teachings of the Christ, if we look at that criteria in Matthew 25 of how we're going to get to heaven, right? Which is feeding the hungry, giving drink to the thirsty, visiting the prisoners, all of those different things. There's corporal and spiritual works of mercy. We have to follow the truths of the church and everything, the beauty of marriage and all of the sacramental life, which, believe me, I am in full communion with all of that as someone with a doctorate in theology. I have to be, but I just wanted to tie those two ends together. I wanted to tie those two ends together. And sometimes people put somebody into a political camp. Well, this person's liberal or conservative or whatever, like we're Catholic. Okay. And yes, we do vote. And that is all very important. And I vote, I do. And I'm pro-life. Okay. In every way. But we do need to tie those two ends together about how we can love and care for the marginalized of our lives. And it's not something that we should be afraid of, that we're going to be interpreted as a certain brand of Catholicism, right? Because if we're really Catholic, and we are under the magisterium of the Catholic Church, and believe me, I have to say, I love Pope Leo, and I am very impressed with some of his recent homilies and things that he said, especially, as I said, what he said about Lent and how we need to be careful of our words. And that's right up my alley. It's right up affability, at the alley of openness and affability. And I really want to preach that message of Pope Leo and the Catholic Church of 2026. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. DeSantis. And again, check out the website, andesantis.com. Can you let our audience know where they could check out your other work, like your YouTube channel, things like that?
Oh, thank you. So the website is andesantis.com. The Facebook page is Dr. Ann DeSantis, THD. Just find the Facebook page, not the profile, but the page. I'm on Instagram at DeSantis Ann. And also look up the St. Raymond Donatus Foundation too. Please do. Just look up that name and you'll see it. All the social media and website is nonatus.org, where we offer free pastoral care for individuals and families in crisis. Please go to our website, learn more. And also, I would like to invite people that if you'd like me to come to speak to your parish or organization, I would love to. I'm booking engagements right now. I have about 4 or so in the next month because it's the Lenten season. And I'm looking forward to all of those. They're all pretty close to home this time around. Last year, I was kind of flying places. But this year, I'm in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, which is very close to me. But invite me. I'd love to come to your church organization to speak. Just go to the Ann speaking page at andesantis.com and inquire. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you for joining us today. And it's great to talk with you again. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Bill. God bless.
God bless you too.